The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda.
Social media was not designed for the brains of kids. A system where you present yourself to a coliseum of the public to be rated and to be evaluated on in real time, and your brain is against an AI-powered supercomputer. It's not a race kids' brain were designed to play in.
Then, later on The Agenda.
The mistake we made about the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War and the spread of liberal democracy was to believe it was somehow inevitable. It was the way history was going. Actually, it was a 1 in a million example of historical luck.
In late 2022, generative AI, such as ChatGPT, shook the world and called into question what these advancements could mean for our collective future. We've also heard calls for better management of social media and smartphones for youth in school just this past weekend from Ontario's Education Minister. Are our lives online getting too complicated? Here to give us an update on whether Canada is ready to tackle its future with AI, we welcome Canadian futurist Sinead Bovell. She's a founder of the tech education company WAYE, W-A-Y-E, stands for Weekly Advice for Young Entrepreneurs. She was also appointed to the United Nations Generation Connect Visionaries Board. And it's great to have you here at TVO.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I do have to ask you right off the top, what does a futurist do?
Well, for me, in my line of work, the proper term is in strategic foresight. So I analyze quantitative and qualitative pieces of data, and I use that to build forecasts and scenarios about where the future may be headed. So I cannot predict the future. I think my life would look a lot different if I could, but I can make scenarios as to where things may likely end up.
So you're making a distinction between forecasting and predicting?
Absolutely a distinction.
Okay, so I can predict that the Leafs will almost surely end this series in ignominy, but I couldn't. There's a distinction between that and forecasting.
Right, yeah.
I think I got it now. Okay, generative AI, we talked about it off the top. You bullish or bearish on it?
I am cautiously optimistic.
How come?
I think the potential with this technology to transform key areas that are important to society, whether that's climate, whether that's healthcare, whether that's education, whether that's productivity, are really high. I think the caution is, can we steer the evolution of this technology right? Can we make the right decisions about it now to set it up for the best chance of success that we can? That's where the caution comes in. But I think if we can get this technology right, it will be pretty remarkable. What
are the threats that concern you?
Well, there's quite a few. I think misinformation and disinformation are probably one of the biggest ones. And it's not just generative AI on its own. This technology is entering into an already fractured information ecosystem, largely driven by social media and the impact algorithmic ranking has had on our societies. So generative AI at the intersection of social media, we're looking at personalized misinformation and disinformation and taking this rabbit hole of kind of fractured society that we have, and it's going to become a little bit more individual, which is challenging.
I want to, Sheldon, can I pull an audible here? Because we were going to get to mis and disinformation later, but you brought it up, so here we are. Okay, fake robocalls from President Biden. This is, I guess, as good an example as any. Somebody did this in New Hampshire before the primaries, telling people, don't bother voting, it's all but done. And you had a little something to say about this. Mis and disinformation. Roll it if you would, Sheldon.
There's a deepfake audio of President Biden's voice going around calling New Hampshire Democrats and telling them not to vote on Tuesday.
We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
The automated call begins with a term that apparently President Biden likes to use a lot. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be able to tell that that voice wasn't actually President Biden.
Right. That's the point, right? It sure it wasn't him?
It was not him. It was confirmed that that was a deep fake audio of his voice.
But it's pretty damn convincing.
It is convincing, and that's only going to grow with time. And you can couple that with video, you can couple that with imagery, and we're looking at entire interactive deepfake compositions. And I think what becomes more challenging is we were able to catch that because so many callers received the same call. But you can imagine a world where each person gets a different call and a personalized call. And it might even be more challenging if it's not a famous voice that people might talk about. You might get a call from a local rep that's talking about something that you're passionate about that has to do with politics or it's politics adjacent, but you're not as thrown off as the president just called me. That seems a little bit funny.
I, in my generation, throw my hands up in the air and think, there is nothing we can do about this. This is beyond our ability to control. Now, you're younger than me, so maybe you're more optimistic about this. What do you see?
I do think the next couple years are going to be quite challenging when it comes to AI-generated disinformation.
So the bad guys are going to be in the lead.
Not necessarily in the lead. We have to be very, very diligent about the information we come across in any sort of digital ecosystem, audio ecosystem. But I think if we want to fix this problem, not only do we need to have more action in terms of accountability, but we have to start thinking about bigger structural changes to the very infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that we operate on. The internet we use today wasn't designed for a world with AI-generated fake content. So we have to think more critically about authentication, infrastructure that would allow us to trace the histories and origin of content to give us a leg up in this new information age. I think that's what's going to take to get us to over this hump, a new digital infrastructure that we can coexist on, because the one we have today, it's insufficient for the age of AI.
If we go to the kind of authentication that you are referring to, does that get into privacy concerns that people will no doubt raise?
It can, but it doesn't have to. So authentication could mean we look more critically at moving towards a blockchain infrastructure where people are still relatively anonymous, but you can trace where content started. Or even working with social media companies to ask them to embed metadata when a piece of content gets uploaded, that gets traced throughout the internet so we can see if it does cause harm. The original post was by R2D2121 with 5 followers. That may allude us to this is probably AI, a bot, or somebody or something trying to cause harm. It's not something that we should actually take seriously. So it's going to take a consolidated effort between multiple big players on the internet, but we're going to have to think more critically about these structural changes to our information ecosystem if we do want to make it through the information age with AI.
It feels to me, though, admittedly sitting in this chair, that there is a fire hose of this crap coming at us 24/7. And even if we did put the proper regulations in place, and even if we did get the kind of authentication you're looking for, you'd never be able to keep up with the mischief makers. Fair?
It will be a bit of a cat-mouse game, but I don't think that's anything new. I think it's new with AI as the tool of the cat-mouse game, but we've had these challenges with cybersecurity. I mean, you can kind of pick the technology and pick the challenge, or any kind of dual-use technology, and it has been a bit of this cat-mouse game. So I think we can figure it out with AI, but it will probably be a little bit messy over these next 2 years, which isn't ideal when we're looking at one of the most significant election years in global history.
Yeah, I mean, a big election in the United States, an anticipated election in Canada a year and a half from now, and lots of mischief makers out there who are determined to make sure that we are deceived along the way. Does that suggest that we're going to have, well, I'd say it means we've got to be pretty bloody vigilant, but, people are leading normal lives and they don't often have time or bandwidth for vigilance. So what do we do?
We do have to be very vigilant, and I think education might be one of our most underutilized resources in combating misinformation, disinformation, and building societies of digital resilience. So more akin to Finland or Estonia that face persistent threats from some of their neighbors, persistent digital threats, we need to build this into our education systems, that you think critically about why an algorithm puts something in front of you versus somebody else. What is the narrative and the perspective that account may have when they created that piece of information or that piece of content? I think it's going to take an entire do-over as to how we approach information online, but that's what's required.
I don't want to keep playing this generation card, but I find it's the case. You're a digital native. Like, you grew up with all this. You get all this stuff. People in my generation are digital, immigrants, I guess. You know, we're coming late to it. We're trying to figure it out. In many cases, we're not equipped to kind of understand these deep fakes and this mis and disinformation. So, okay, I have hope for your generation. What do you want to do about mine?
I mean, I think older generations have had challenges with the radio, challenges with TV, and so I think there's some learnings we can take from history, but we're also going to have to figure out ways to educate society more broadly. If something as serious as democracy is on the line, which in many ways it is when it comes to, if we don't have shared truths, that makes it nearly impossible for democracy to function. We have to meet society, every aspect and every member of society where they are in terms of education and building this next chapter of digital resilience in this AI age.
In which case, there was a, some would argue, significant step taken in the province of Ontario in that regard this past weekend, where the Minister of Education said he wanted smartphones banned from classrooms. What do we think?
I 100% agree that that is an important place to start. The data, I think we all know and feel that we are distracted by these devices in our pockets that have been engineered with tons and tons of psychology research to keep us on platforms, whether it's apps on these devices or checking these phones constantly or these devices constantly. So I think at the very least, they need to be banned in classrooms. But when you actually look at the data as to smartphone bans, the stricter the ban is, the more effective the outcome is for children. So there was a study done in Norway recently that looked at 400 schools that had different levels of smartphone bans. And they found schools where you couldn't bring or if you did bring the smartphone, it has to be off the whole day, or you hand it in at the beginning of the school day. Those schools had transformative outcomes in terms of mental health for girls, academic performance, and lower bullying by 46% and 43% for girls and boys, respectively.
And you can draw a straight line between those two things.
You can draw a straight line. But what becomes more interesting, the classrooms where you just had to turn it off, but you could have your phone, it actually became counterproductive because the kids couldn't wait to get to recess to check all those notifications or to quickly take a million bathroom breaks. So I think the stricter the phone ban, the better. And I think the more the data comes in, it's going to show we're better off giving kids a phone-free 8-hour, 7-hour day. I think that's probably going to turn out to be the direction we go and the best case scenario for outcomes for kids.
You know, in my experience, though, it's not the kids who are the problems here. It is the parents. Because when the kids come to the parents and say, I need a smartphone and I need an iPhone, whatever, we up to 16 now or something? Anyway, the parents should say no, but they say yes. So how do you get this message through to parents that actually you just need to do some parenting here and not say yes to everything your kids want?
I mean, I think it's a tricky one, right? Yeah. It's the definition of a collective action problem where if just one or two families or one or two strict parents are the ones that say no, you are what seems to be disadvantaging your child in the short term because that's where all their friends are. I think that's why we need a bit more education and a bit more support from government to help us understand the dangers of smartphones and the dangers of social media for young minds. We've been here before. We've seen similar kind of fights with big tobacco, with seatbelts. So I actually don't think it should be on an individual family or parent to recognize these harms and challenges on their own. I think we need more societal education on it and government to kind of step in and to help because it is impacting mental health, it is impacting educational outcomes. Even among adults, we can feel we're distracted. Imagine trying to sit in class all day where you have something that's been engineered to keep your attention away from whatever it is that you should be doing.
So a 12-year-old who asks for a state-of-the-art iPhone, a parent should simply say, I am worried about your safety, and for that, I will give you a flip phone, and you can deal with it for the next 4 years. Is that the right response?
I don't know about specific response. I would say a flip phone, sure, I'm very much in favor of those. For some kids, if you're walking to and from school, maybe a smart watch if you're able to get something like that. But I think it is going to require a broader shift for more parents and more students to move away from smartphones. It's hard if it's just one individual family. And so I do sympathize with parents there. But I think we're at the beginning of that kind of big tobacco era fight, where eventually we come out on the other side and we realize less smartphone use for younger ages is much better. So I do see us making it over the hump. But for now, if you can delay it as long as possible, the better. A flip phone, a smartwatch, or none at all, I think.
Listen, I'm not, in the interest of full disclosure, when my 12-year-old daughter came up to me and said, I need an iPhone, rose-colored, please, you know what our response was? Yes. We're as bad as everybody else. Should have said no, but, you know, all her friends had it, and so we thought, well, I guess we got to do this too. Anyway, I'm not trying to be, I'm certainly no better than anybody else on this, but you've given us some good advice here. I want to ask you about this lawsuit. You mentioned Big Tobacco, and of course there were huge lawsuits against Big Tobacco, and they paid off in the end, and are still doing so. 4 school boards in the province of Ontario are suing Meta and the creators of Snapchat and TikTok, alleging harm to students. What do we think about this?
I think the suit is important in putting this as a public priority as to the impact social media has on mental health, on learning, on attention. I think I agreed with most of the claims, I would say, in the suit, that kids are distracted, they feel somewhat addicted to these platforms, and we can trace that back to why, based on the technological design. So this is no longer just kind of anecdotal or intuitive. Social media platforms were designed to create habit-forming behavior. You can actually trace it back to a particular class that happened at Stanford that at the time was called persuasive technology. And so the developers of these platforms learned how to make these technologies more addictive, variable reward systems, preying on our insecurities, our need for social validation, all of these things that somewhat hijack the dopamine reward system and keep us coming back for more and more. So we can see where this is coming from. There's quite a causal line. So I think if teachers are the ones that are having to deal with it and are noticing it, I think it's important that they raise this to public attention. I'm not sure what the outcome will be in terms of the impact on tech companies themselves. I think Meta's cash flow was $3 billion a week last year. But I do think it helps that it isn't just happening in Canada. We're seeing these suits as well in the US. So I do think the tide is turning. We can expect to see, again, pushback on the research, trying to invalidate the science by these tech companies. But the data is there. And the more time goes on, the more data we're going to see that social media was not designed for the brains of kids. A system where you present yourself to a coliseum of the public to be rated and to be evaluated on in real time, and your brain is against an AI-powered supercomputer. It's not a race kids' brain were designed to play in. So I think I'm glad that we're taking this seriously now. Gotcha.
Let's, okay, full circle here. We're going to go back to AI and other changes that you not predict, but forecast. Vis-a-vis, let's talk about relationships. How will they be influenced and or affected by artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence and relationships. This is an interesting one, and it's an important one. So there's 2 lanes that are going to kind of transpire here. On the one hand, more of us will start to have AI-powered digital assistants and digital chatbots that help us in our daily life. So the relationships we have with our smartphones, where they're kind of a portal to the digital world, it will soon be like that with digital chatbots and digital assistants. However, I do think it's important for regulators to really pay attention as to the closeness and the emotional attachments people may start to form with AI systems. These systems were designed to seem quite human, to make it seem like they are empathetic and to evoke certain emotion. And the more emotionally involved and attached you are to something, the more vulnerable you are to it.
What was that movie? Remember the movie,
The movie
with
Her?
Joaquin Phoenix? Her, was that what it was called?
Yes, and we've seen
Yeah.
the real-life version with Google last year when the Google engineer lost his job because he thought he was protecting a sentient AI. So you could imagine this at scale across a society, people building these emotional dependencies on AI systems that could be socially engineered to impact human psychology at scale. And in the hands of the wrong actor or a developer that has bad intentions, this could end up like another social media level disaster in terms of psychological manipulation. So I think if there's one place I'd look, it's there. We also have a bit of a loneliness epidemic, right? So we don't want people fulfilling their loneliness challenges with an AI. It seems like it's a perfect timing. So I think regulators should zoom in there. So on the one hand, they'll be really effective and supportive and helpful, these AI systems, but it kind of treads a fine line, especially when it comes to these emotional relationships. And in many ways, I mean, this is the first time in history where a non-human entity is going to be given the keys to human language in a way that's indistinguishable from humans themselves.
Just play it forward for me, for argument's sake. What is the harm in a very lonely person being emotionally dependent on an AI friend?
So I say emotionally supported by an AI friend, I think could be okay. And I'll leave this to the Department of Psychology, but there has been some research that does show in times of severe loneliness, it can be helpful just to have something to talk to. It's the dependencies and starting to prefer interacting with an AI instead of a human, because it's much more frictionless. It's a very one-sided relationship.
It's easier.
That's going to make dealing with humans much more challenging. And so you could imagine that at scale, people starting to prefer AI over humans. I don't think that's a path that we want to venture down.
We forget how to relate to each other.
We forget how to relate, or we work against our own best interests when it comes to dealing with humans.
Right. Okay, speaking of the word work, how do you think AI will affect the kind of work we do in the future?
So what's interesting is AI is a general purpose technology. So right now, when we think of AI, we tend to think of ChatGPT and chatbots. But this is really going to be a technology that will be as disruptive as the printing press or electricity or the internet, where it impacts every single aspect of work and of society. So on the one hand, we'll see the invention of a lot of new jobs that just don't exist today, and those are kind of hard to see. So that will be interesting and exciting. I do think the trend lines of us starting to work a little bit less will continue, and that's nothing new. That's happened since the 19th century as a result of labor unions and regulations, but also improvements in productivity. So I do think it's possible in a future where we're a little bit more productive, or perhaps a lot more productive as a result of AI and even just generative AI. So something like a 4-day work week will actually be in the cards. And why I think that this is something that's important for workers to be aware of and for voters to be aware of. If AI can make us a lot more productive, so I can do what I used to do in 5 days in 4, should the companies and capital interests bank that productivity gain, or should I? Should I get that day back, but I don't lose economically? So that's one way to think about it. And another way is to ensure that there is still a balance between supply and demand of work available and demand for those jobs. So I think we need to start thinking a bit more critically about what a 4-day work week could look like. And we'll also start to we'll move towards more flexible gig-based work, and that's because AI is going to continually kind of disrupt aspects of work. So this idea that you learn, you work, you retire, that's probably going to go away, and it will be a lot of learning and working and kind of changing where you work, what you do at work, because AI will continue to encourage us or force us to bring new skills to the table. So it will be a bit more volatile, and the fabric of the workforce will be one that's a bit more flexible. But I think if we can take the hindsight of what happened in the Industrial Revolution, where people weren't protected, and make sure we don't do that again, and we make sure everybody has access to the skills to reach for the newer jobs of the future that haven't been invented yet, and they're protected in times of transition, we should be able to make it through. And we have enough time to make sure that that happens. We just have to make the right decisions about it.
Can I ask you a very weird last question?
Yes.
How'd you get so smart about all this stuff? Like, this is not, I don't think they teach courses in this in university, do they? So where'd you get into, explain.
I read a lot. And this is also my field of work. And in fact, I think we all are futurists at heart in some ways. I think most of us are rooting for versions of the future that we want to see. And I happen to do it for a living, but I think most people are in some ways practicing futurists. And I do think the more of us that lean into the future and that try to shape it, the more likely that future is going to work for more of us. And I think that that's really important.
Hope you're right. Sinead Bovell, it's great to meet you. Thanks for coming into TVO tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start. And what about this? A media literacy course in high school. In my view, that should have been in place a long time ago. Secondly, there's so much out there on social media, and so much of it is, frankly, just garbage. You can't believe it. Look at the hoaxes that were floating around about the moon landing being a hoax, 9/11 being a hoax. And that was supposedly backed up by credible authorities, good information, and it was all nonsense. Because there is evidence, hard evidence, to the contrary, of course. So my best advice on this would be to go for the institutions you grew up with and learn to trust, like TVO, like CBC, CTV, National Systems, Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, what have you, your local paper. Because there you get journalism that is verified by credible journalists who moderate it, and they are careful about what they publish, what they put out. You can be sure that facts are facts, not alternative facts, but real facts. That's point 2. Point 3 is that I think you should take seriously being a good citizen, because you're a voter. You're going to have to make decisions about things. I know that sounds maybe boring, but it's a job that every citizen in a democracy has to take seriously if you want to get the government. You know, we say we get the government we deserve. Well, we get the government we vote for. So please keep that in mind.
My goodness, Timothy Garton Ash has seen a lot of European history. The Oxford University professor has written a terrific book on his first-hand travels through Europe's history, some of which was apparently subversive enough that the Stasi, the East German spy service, had a file on him. The book is called Homelands, A Personal History of Europe, and it's won the 2024 Lionel Gelber Prize for the best book on foreign affairs. And Timothy Garton Ash joins us now here in the studio. It's great to see you again.
Pleasure to be back.
You were here with, yes, indeed, back. You were here 7 years ago with your last book. And I want to start with a quote. Close to 90 million people were either killed or displaced in Europe between 1939 and 1948. This means that roughly 1 out of every 6 Europeans was either killed or displaced. That is before we even get to the further millions who were merely starved, stricken by disease, raped, tortured, crippled, paupered, frozen, reduced to prostitution, orphaned, humiliated, degraded, widowed, psychologically scarred for life, let alone the long-term effects on their children and children's children. Okay, why does Europe have this whole cradle of civilization, everything's wonderful going for it, when it has such an appalling history?
Listen, if you're writing a history of contemporary Europe, you have to start in hell. And Europe in that decade was hell, a hell we ourselves made. And so if we're going to talk about European civilization, we also need to talk about European barbarism. And I think that's really important to understand. But of course, the story of this book is a story of how we Europeans said, never again. We were never again going back to that hell. And here we are nearly 80 years later, and we're back in it. We have the largest war in Europe since 1945 in Ukraine.
You're back in it, and not for the first time. Let's not forget the Balkans of the 1990s.
That's exactly right. And, you know, after Bosnia, after the horrors of former Yugoslavia, we said, never again, again. And here we are again.
In Europe, you write, 0 is a recurring number. What do you mean by that?
So let me explain. Europeans talk about year zero, or the Germans say Stunde Null, the hour zero, which is where everything began, the ruins, and you start again. But as we've just been saying, zero is a recurring number. For Bosnians, I've never forgotten, I say in the book, sitting in a newspaper office in Sarajevo in 1995, towards the end of the Bosnian War, and it's freezing cold. The guy is feeding the office furniture into a stove because there's no heating. First one leg, then another chair leg, soon a whole chair is gone. And he says, as we're talking, you know, after the war, and instinctively I thought he meant after 1945, and then I realized what he actually meant was after 1995. And when Ukrainians say after the war, they're not going to mean after 1945. They're going to mean, let's hope and pray, after 2024, 2025.
But I presume for a guy like you, whose father was at D-Day in 1944, I presume that's year zero for you and your family.
I suppose so. I mean, it's really interesting because this is a personal history of Europe. And so I've been, I like to joke, this book took me just 50 years to write. 50 years of traveling around the continent. But obviously, I wasn't there in 1944. I was minus 10 years old. But fortunately, my father was. He landed with the first wave on D-Day, 9:30 a.m. on the Normandy beaches at Vers-sur-Mer, along with some Canadians, of course, and the Americans, obviously, and fought his way all the way through Northern Europe until he ended up occupying a village in northern Germany. So certainly I grew up with D-Day and that last year of the Second World War as a defining experience in my own family. And so I can describe that moment through his own experience.
For a guy born in Wimbledon, England,
yes,
you speak English, you speak what else?
Polish, German, French, and then passable knowledge of a few others.
So do you feel more European because you can speak more than one language?
Undoubtedly. I mean, this is, of course, one of the great things. It's one of the many ways in which Canada is, in a way, a kind of European country, because...
You said that, actually. You said we make a pretty good EU member.
It's a joke, of course, but it's perfectly true. You would be the perfect EU member state. Model liberal democracy, great respect of international humanitarian law, civilized, multicultural, and bilingual, English and French. What could be better? We'll swap you for Hungary. But no, absolutely. So this is, in a way, the point of the title of the book, Homelands. The great thing about being a European is that you can be at home abroad. I'm in Paris, I'm in Berlin, I'm in Warsaw, I'm clearly abroad because they're speaking a different language, but in an important way, I'm still at home.
The European Union's motto is, and I'm going to give my grade 12 Latin a workout here, in veritate concordia, united in diversity. And here's what you say about that. Unity and diversity are Europe's yin and yang, its thesis and antithesis, forever seeking their elusive synthesis. Push too hard for unity and the forced union starts to fall apart. Push too hard for diversity and Europeans end up fighting each other. Could you evaluate Europe's yin and yang today? How much diversity, how much unity?
Well, let me start by saying that this is the key to understanding European history since the fall of the Roman Empire. For these 2,000 years, we've been pushing for unity. It gets too much unity, there's a Brexit or a war. Or there's too much diversity, and then we all fall apart and there's a war again. So we've been doing this toing and froing for 2,000 years. And I would say this European Union is the best stab we've had at it in 2,000 years. But we've got to understand that it's not about just constantly going for unity. We're not going to have a United States of Europe. It's not going to be a federal Europe. It's about finding that elusive balance between unity and diversity. And as we now set out to expand the European Union, yet again, to take in Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, the Western Balkans, that's the challenge again.
You wrote something in the book that I'm delighted you were wrong about. In 1980, on the last day of the year, you wrote in your diary, "There will be a nuclear war in the next decade." And then you rewrote the same line in all caps. Why, at that moment, were you so pessimistic about our future?
Well, you know, people have forgotten that in the so-called Second Cold War, which was this period of extreme tension between the United States and the Soviet Union in the early 1980s, we actually came closer than we've ever done since 1945 to a nuclear exchange. I mean, the chief of the Soviet General Staff actually went to his bunker underneath Moscow because he was so worried that the so-called Able Archer NATO exercise was actually serious preparation for nuclear war under Ronald Reagan. So there was some reason for being worried. But you know, the truth is, Steve, I would say the danger is greater today. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons voluntarily in 1994 in return for security assurances from Russia, the United States, and Britain. Look what happened to Ukraine. It got hammered. Imagine if they'd had a nuclear weapon to threaten retaliation against Russia.
You'd have to assume Putin would have thought twice.
Exactly, exactly. So that actually, I think what's happened to Ukraine has given a huge push to nuclear proliferation. And then now look at what's happening in the Middle East, Israel, Iran. So I'm afraid we're probably entering another period where the risk of nuclear war is going to go up. This time, not between two superpowers, but by nuclear proliferation.
Well, having said all that, let's focus for a moment on one of the more joyous moments of your travels through your homelands, and that is you drove for 7 weeks in 1978 through the entire Soviet bloc, as you tell us, from East Berlin to Sofia, Bulgaria. Could you ever have imagined that about a decade later, that evil empire would simply end?
So it's a great question, and I'm going to give a kind of nuanced answer to it, because you were inviting the answer no. In German, they say Jein, which means yes and no together, Ja und Nein. Because coming at it as someone trained in the study of history, and coming at it with fresh eyes as a young guy, and as a reporter traveling around, I could see that this was an empire in decline. So I think I had the basic insight. This is an empire in decay. What I could never imagine was A, it would only take 10 years, 11 years, and B, it would happen entirely or almost entirely peacefully. I mean, the pivot of the story of the last 50 years in the book is, of course, 1989, the Velvet Revolutions, and the fact that this enormous, the last great European empire, nuclear-armed empire, could softly and suddenly vanish away with hardly a shot fired in anger, seemed a miracle at the time, and actually was a miracle.
I'm trying to imagine the Berlin Wall has come down, East and West Germany are reunited in a single German country, and you are sitting opposite the former Chancellor of Germany, Helmut Kohl, and he says to you, do you realize that you are sitting opposite the direct successor to Adolf Hitler? I don't like it, but that's the fact, he says to you. How did you react when he said that?
Well, Helmut Kohl, I have to tell you, was the largest human being I have ever met. He was an enormous man, both in height and in girth, so he was towering over me. And when he says this really shocking thing, I mean, what does one say? What I should have said was, actually, Herr Bundeskanzler, there was Grand Admiral Dönitz between Hitler and you, because if you remember, at the very end of the Third Reich, Grand Admiral Dönitz was briefly. Yeah. But so I was so gobsmacked, I couldn't say anything. Yeah. But of course, it's a very telling story, because Helmut Kohl had a great sense of history. And what he was saying to me was, I am conscious of my historical responsibility. Basically, I'm the first Chancellor of United Germany since Hitler. Hitler tried to put a German roof over Europe. I'm going to do everything differently and put a European roof over Germany, which, by the way, is actually what he did. You know, he made sure that German unification was accompanied by major steps of European unification, notably the single European currency, the euro. So it was an amazing moment, but also an amazing historical figure, Helmut Kohl.
And yet you also quote a former political prisoner who turned out to be the president of Hungary, who said he survived 40 years of communism, but he wasn't sure he could survive 1 year of capitalism. Now, what do you mean by that?
This was my dear friend Arpad Gönz, who was a veteran of the 1956 revolution, had been imprisoned afterwards, years of oppression. Ironically, capitalism turned out to be a more revolutionary force in Eastern Europe than communism. Communism, because it was kind of so slow and inefficient, actually had a kind of conservative effect. So I used to say, if you want to go and find the old Europe, you'll find it behind the Iron Curtain in Eastern Europe. Capitalism has transformed everything in those societies, not just what you have in the shops, but the way people work. Time is speeded up and divided up into little half-hour segments, like a television program. The political system, what you see on television, how people dress, how they live. So that's what my friend Arpad Gönz was saying. It's capitalism which is a revolutionary force.
I'm trying to imagine this other moment where you're sitting with George W. Bush, then President of the United States. You're in the White House, and he asks your view on which countries from the former East Bloc ought to be admitted to NATO. What'd you tell him?
So this was an amazing moment, I have to tell you. When I initially got the telephone call in my office in Oxford, and a very sort of girlish voice said, could you come and have a meeting with the President of the United States next Thursday at 2 p.m.? I thought it was a joke. I thought my students were playing a joke. 5 of us to brief President George W. Bush before his first official visit to Europe and to meet Vladimir Putin. They were all there, Dick Cheney lowering in the corner, Condi Rice and everybody, 2.5 hours. And the big question on the table was, should the United States, should we, the West, support NATO enlargement, and how far? And the particular issue was the Baltic states, question mark. And I and my good friend Michael McFaul, subsequently US ambassador to Moscow under Barack Obama, very strongly urged him to take in the Baltic states. And I have to tell you, I am so glad that we did. Imagine that you were Estonian today and you were living in the city of Narva, right on the Russian frontier, 90% ethnic Russian. You're sleeping easily in your bed today because Estonia is a member of NATO. So thank God we did.
Having said that, I don't know if it was on this occasion or another occasion, you're talking to George W. Bush, and he asks you, do we want the European, we meaning the Americans, do we want the European Union to succeed? That seems like a very strange question for a president of the United States to ask. What did you make of it?
Well, first of all, of the 5 Europeans or people there, Europe was, strange enough, represented by 2 Brits, myself and Lionel Barber, subsequently editor of the FT. And Lionel and I immediately pushed back very hard and said, Mr. President, it is absolutely in the United States' interest to see the European Union succeed. But the point is this, no US president between 1945 and that moment in 2001 would have thought to ask that question, not even Ronald Reagan, because it was obvious to them that it was in the US interest. So this is the beginning of that process whereby the distance between the United States and Europe starts to increase, that a US president can ask that question. And by the way, that continues under Barack Obama.
Well, and presumably gets to its worst point under Donald Trump, who says, if you don't pay your bills, I'm not coming to your rescue.
In spades under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the important point, I think, is, and this is very relevant, I think, to Canada too, that it's a long-term secular process. It's worse under one president, better under Joe Biden, but nonetheless, for the United States now, it's China. It's all about China. And Europe is in some sense, I won't say a sideshow, but certainly a secondary consideration.
Europe has and has had for a while a very fraught relationship with Islam. And I want to do another quote from your book on that. Sheldon, top of page 5, if you would. Board number 3. A policy based on the expectation that millions of Muslims will so suddenly abandon the faith of their fathers and mothers is simply not realistic, you write. If the message they hear from us is that the necessary condition for being European is to abandon their religion, then they will choose not to be European. This appears to be a stalemate. Do you see any way in which Muslim Europe becomes more European, or I guess alternatively, old stock Europe becomes more embracing of Islam?
It's already happening.
Which?
The process of peaceful integration. There's a famous remark Madeleine Albright reports when a senior French diplomat said to her, "Madam Secretary, we know that will work in practice, but will it work in theory?"
Yes.
The great French view, Cartesian view. With the integration of Muslims in Europe, it's so to speak, the English way round. It's working in practice, even if it might not work in theory. So in theory, you can construct a dichotomy, but the practice is, because we have many millions of fellow citizens, fellow Europeans, British, French, German, Italian, who've been living in Europe for many, many years, for generations, often second, third generation, and it works. It works in practice, maybe not in theory. And interestingly, the reason it works is because the national cultures are so strong. So if you have a meeting of European Muslims, I've attended a few, the British Muslims are just very British, and the French Muslims are very French, and the German Muslims are very German. So it is absolutely working. This is not to say there isn't a problem with a significant minority who think the two are incompatible. We have a long history of terrorism, there's no question about that. And of course, what's happening today in Gaza is not just a foreign policy problem for Europe, it's also a domestic policy problem, because both anti-Jewish hatred and anti-Muslim hatred is being stirred up by this conflict. But we have to make it work, Steve. We have no alternative.
You would think so. You would think there's no alternative.
Well, we have an aging population. We need immigration. The immigration is coming anyway. Where is it going to come from? Africa and the wider Middle East. We just have to. And Canada is, in a way, one of the models. I mean, you invented multiculturalism.
Britain's relationship with Europe. Even the Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher had this to say: Britain does not dream of some cozy, isolated existence on the fringes of the European community. Our destiny is in Europe as part of the community. That's Maggie Thatcher. How did we get from that view to Brexit? It's the same party, but very different view.
So here's the thing. The mistake we made about the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War and the spread of liberal democracy was to believe it was somehow inevitable. It was the way history was going. Actually, it was a 1 in a million example of historical luck, good luck. And Brexit, it's the other way around. It was anything but inevitable. People tend now to see it as, the expression of some deep, deep causes. It was a 1 in a million example of historical bad luck. A whole series of things came together, from more important things like the role of the Eurosceptic press, to the fact there was a height of the refugee crisis in continental Europe, all the way to the personal role of someone like Boris Johnson, and just squeezed it over the line. It was 52% to 48%. And we've been regretting it ever since. If you look at the opinion polls now, it's going up around 60% of the Brits asked who say it was a mistake.
Well, okay, but, and for this next question, I'm going to sort of combine what you've written in this book with what you wrote in your previous book about free speech, and that is, it seems to me one of the lessons that emerges from Brexit is that campaigns or arguments that are designed to appeal to the heart and the gut, using lies, using what everybody acknowledges after the fact were out-and-out lies, that will succeed over a rational appeal to the brain.
If what you have in your society is a kind of wellspring, deep wells of anger about the way things have been going. Because Brexit was also an expression of the fact that a very large part of British society, particularly in the post-industrial North, felt left behind, ignored, underprivileged, through the kind of liberalism, neoliberalism, if you want, that we'd had for the last 30 years, Thatcher and then Blair, okay? So it's also an expression of the thing that gave the United States Trump and gives France Marine Le Pen and gives Germany the AfD. That's another part of the story. And then the demagogues come along and tell this compelling narrative, and the slogan of the Brexit campaign. I mean, I was a passionate Remainer. That day of the Brexit vote was the worst political day of my life. But they did a brilliant campaign, mendacious, of course, and take back control was a slogan of genius, because it captured exactly what people wanted.
We now have a new phenomenon in Europe, relatively speaking, illiberal democracy. Hungary, for example, saying it doesn't want to join the, quote, mixed race world of Western Europe. Is that the future of Europe?
So, if I may, I'm going to disagree, because I think illiberal democracy is a contradiction in terms, like fried snowballs. Democracy is liberal or it's nothing. And what we have in Hungary, shockingly, in a full member state of the European Union, is no longer a democracy.
Is it fascism?
No, it's what political scientists call electoral authoritarian regimes. I mean, there's this kind of hybrid. I mean, Turkey would be another, where you still have elections and you still have some sort of a democratic context, but it's not actually a free and fair election. It's not a level playing field. Shockingly, inside the EU. And to your question, Viktor Orban, who is the author of this anti-liberal success. By the way, I write about him a lot in the book. I first got to know him in 1988. He was our student at Oxford. He was the bright young hope of liberal Europe. Look at him now. Viktor Orban is counting on the victory of Donald Trump. If Trump comes back in the United States, he will have people like Viktor Orban and quite a few other allies scattered around Europe, not only cheering for him, but also relying on him. So there's this contest being played out in Europe between liberal and anti-liberal Europe, but it's in a way the same contest that is being played out in North America at the same time.
Let's finish up on this. 50 years ago, we could not have imagined the end of the Soviet Union, the reunification of Germany, Lech Wałęsa being a trade union guy, and suddenly he's the president of Poland, the disintegration of Yugoslavia, Russia invading Ukraine, and on and on. As you look at Europe today, what do you think will happen 50 years from now that we can't possibly imagine today?
So my formula has always been pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Just analytically, it's not looking good. We have two big wars at the edges of Europe. We have nationalist populist parties that are doing very well. There are growing unhappiness with the European Union, so that one can very well imagine a Europe 50 years hence, which is back to its bad old ways, to go back to the beginning of our conversation. However, history is always open. It was open in summer 1914, it was open in summer 1939, and it's open now. So it's up to us. And I am firmly persuaded that if we mobilize to defend the best Europe we've ever got, we can still hang on to it. There could still be a European Union 50 years hence. And that, in a way, is the reason for writing this book, to say to young people in particular, everywhere, hey guys, you've got the best Europe we've ever had, but if you don't watch out, we're going to lose it.
We congratulate you once again on winning the Lionel Gelber Prize for Foreign Affairs Writing. The book is called Homelands, A Personal History of Europe, And we are so glad it has brought Timothy Garton Ash back to our studio. All good wishes.
Great pleasure. Many thanks.
Tomorrow on the agenda.
It was Pearson who gave us the Canadian flag. It's something that Diefenbaker stoutly opposed. He wept when the new flag was raised because he was still wedded to the British Empire. But Pearson knew where the world was going, and he knew that the empire was dying, and that the American empire was what Canada had to deal with now. And that flag is one of his greatest accomplishments.
That's tomorrow on the agenda.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.